This is Craig.
And this is Tasha.
Welcome to the Untold Experience. Real quick, we wanted to tell you about an app that we use to record our podcast. The app we use is called Anchor, and it's amazing.
Yes, we're able to record, edit, and add music to our show if we see fit. Most importantly, the app allows us to earn money, even if we are not superstars.
If you or anyone you know is interested in starting a podcast, please spread the word about Anchor. It's completely free and has been really instrumental in our work. So come and join us as we enter into the rabbit hole. Let the journey begin. Da-na-na, da-na-na. It's your boy Phantom Rebel, aka Mr. Cox for those that don't know me. Hope everybody has had a good week, or at least a productive one. Because let's face it, sometimes we don't feel motivated or encouraged to be on our A game all the time. Some days, you just feel like saying fuck it all, especially come Monday morning. But I challenge you, we challenge you, to rechannel some of that morbid energy into a positive outcome. It's amazing how daunting going on a run is sometimes, right? Right before you get ready to run, you're thinking about, just the run itself, maybe hills you have to climb, maybe it's raining, maybe it's cold, and it just sucks to think about going on a run sometimes. But, I've found, even in my own personal experience with running, that once you get out there and you get going, it becomes almost the opposite of what it started as. It becomes almost a beautiful thing. Most of the agony we face, sometimes most of it takes place in our mind, right? Before it manifests in our lives. So the challenge would be to maybe guide your thoughts as much or as often as you can. And maybe that can help regulate some of the emotional stress we all know sometimes can get the best of us, and they may come and lashing out at your partner, your kids, coworker, maybe, sitting in traffic. You just have less patience, anything. But, as Natasha has mentioned in previous podcasts, we're definitely not experts. So I would never dare to insinuate or suggest something that we aren't currently doing or attempting to do to some degree ourselves. So I think that's, important to both of us that we are, practicing as we preach, as the old saying goes. And even as the once, or not once, because I still think he's alive, the once our great Richard Marcinko, creator of the SEAL Team 6, he once said that I found something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and I carry with me still to this day. But he had a series of books called The Rogue Warrior, where they were loosely based on missions that either he himself took part in, or maybe someone he had worked with in the military. But he would always say, I will always lead my men from the front, not the back. Meaning he wouldn't ask his men to do anything, jump out of a plane, enter a building, before he would do it himself, right? So he just, that's how he gained the respect of his men. And so that's something that I try to employ even in my own life, right? Like if I'm trying to advise someone, or if I'm, or something of the sort, I try to make sure that I find examples in my own life that I could, kind of show as proof, like, hey, I've been through this, and this is where I am, because I think that that's where people find the motivation to push through, things that they may feel are impossible or unobtainable.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How about you, honey?
Well, thank you for that
Yeah.
great introduction. Hey, y'all. It's your girl Tasha here, and my pronouns are she and her. I resonate what you said about Mondays. Like, everybody kind of dread Mondays. It's Monday today, Monday night, actually. We are in our bedrooms, like, kind of like in a red light
A
special
red light
type
special.
ordeal.
I'm sitting by the heater warming my buttocks
He warmed his buttocks, y'all.
because it's cold,
It's super cold, and he's got the red light on, and we're sitting here recording, talking to y'all.
Yeah.
But it's Monday night, And as always, we have our wine. I don't
Yes,
know if you have
indeed.
wine today.
I drank it already.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
he drank
I
his
drank it already.
already,
So
but I guess I'm still working on mine. But when it comes to Mondays, y'all, it's very important that you remember that you don't hate Mondays, you hate the system.
mm,
You
right.
know,
Yeah.
it's the
Just the setup.
system and our capitalistic lifestyle that causes us to have a bad reflection on the day of Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Just the anxiety of going in after the weekend. We've had some time to ourselves. We probably, spent time with families, watched a couple of Netflix
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Oh
comedies or
yeah.
shows or
Yep.
whatever. But yeah, so just remember, y'all, that, Mondays are tedious, yes, but it's not the day that we kind of despise, it's the system. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. It's the Untold Experience. We're still
It's
in
the fourth
season
episode,
one.
honey.
Yep. And it is the fourth episode. So
Look at that. Proud of us.
I am so proud of us. We're doing it.
We are. You
We
know.
have a commitment, like I said in the last episode, which was Zombie Apocalypse Now.
Yes. Still out now, so
Yeah,
go check it out.
yeah, it's still out there, y'all. We made a commitment to 10 episodes, and
Yes.
depending upon the feedback, depending upon, our listeners, we'll decide whether or not we come back for a second season. But season 1, episode 4, and this episode is called Cheating on the Square.
Cheating on the square.
Ooh.
How'd you come up with that term, honey?
Cheating on the Square?
Yeah.
Well, back down south, we had another term that was called kidding on the square. Yeah.
I've heard of that before. So
yeah. So kidding on the square is when you're joking but serious.
Right. Right.
Like you're like ha ha, but there's a little bit of
A
truth.
little undertone.
Yeah, there's an undertone of truth behind the joke. So, cheating on the square with this episode is like you're not really cheating, but there's a
Sort of, kind of
undertone because things or covenants are still being broken.
Sure.
Within a relationship, but we'll get into that.
Absolutely.
And then we'll also talk about, the selective outrage.
Selective outrage. Shout out to your boy Chris Rock.
Hey, Chris Rock. Hey, selective outrage. We'll cover it here in a second.
Yeah.
I just want to know, how are you feeling right now? You got it, though?
I'm feeling good. I think that life has its ups and downs, just like everybody else. There's moments of the day where you feel on a high and you feel untouchable, and like you can obtain or at least make an attempt to set out to some of your goals.
Yeah.
But then there's days where you just feel like everything's going wrong, right? Everybody's just kind of on your ass.
Yeah.
And it's all perception most of the time, right? It's never really what it actually is, as we talk about all the time. It's just what we're our stinking thinking, or maybe somebody cut us off before we got to work, and we haven't got quite over that just yet, so we come in with that, and that energy just kind of transfers. So we're all subject to those sort of up and down emotions, but I think overall I think I'm doing pretty good, honey.
Yeah, that's good.
I these days I watch less news. I try to focus my attention on things that make me happy.
Yeah.
Things that draw me near to the people that I love.
Yeah.
And if I do decide to engage in news or anything like that, I tend to go to podcasts. And just because you can curate and kind of select more of what you want to hear versus what somebody else wants you to.
What somebody else is giving you.
What somebody else is giving
as
you.
News.
Even though it's always that, right? I mean, unless you're the one that's doing the reporting, it's always somebody else's opinion, someone else's take that you are taking in consideration. But I feel like podcasts, you get to go more into depth.
Yeah.
You get more of people's real opinions, I think.
Yeah.
So
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing of change. That's what it all boils down to. I think it's definitely a season of change, a season of awareness. I don't know what that is, but bruh,
It's the
excuse
stupid
us.
camera. It's the camera. Of course, it would go off right now.
Right. So I don't know. I just think that it's definitely the a shift, in the season,
Hmm.
and people are definitely feeling that. Anyway, moving forward to housekeeping items. First, again, we'd like to thank our listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
guys.
you.
We've had some feedback. We've had, people again from other countries listening in. Shout out
How
to
about
Mexico.
that?
Yeah,
Mexico. Shout out to my
Mexico.
Spanish and my. Oh
Querido,
my
buenos
goodness. Right?
noches over
Yeah. Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So let me, I don't want to be offensive. I say Spanish. That means, Mexico, Puerto Rico. I know there's multiple versions of my Spanish people out there, so I don't want to lump
Yes.
you guys into one group there. So definitely don't want to be
Yes.
disrespectful.
Yes.
But yeah, shout out to my people of Spanish descent,
Yes.
and also other cultures,
Other
obviously.
cultures. We've had like Poland,
Poland, Germany,
Germany,
Australia,
Australia, India.
even India. Wow, like
Yeah.
you even got listeners in India. That's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, honey.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we want to thank y'all. Again, this show would not exist
Mm.
without you. We keep going because you guys keep interacting. There's not very many, again, it's just like.
Trust me, y'all. It is not a lot, but
But the ones that are reaching out, the ones that, are listening, we definitely appreciate you.
love y'all.
Thank you. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for all of your support, your feedback, and your love. Secondly, just a quick reminder, as Gerido Craig has said before, we are not experts
Nope.
at any of the subjects that we choose to tackle. These
Not
are
at all.
just things, that we talk about on a daily basis, things like he said earlier that we practice, and also now we are getting some form of feedback, and so we try to address things because we continue to ask you guys if there's a topic or a subject that you would like for us to tackle. Please
Yeah.
just hit us up.
Or even things that we personally experience ourselves, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So
Oh yeah. And additionally, here's how you can continue to support us. Again, we've committed to 10 episodes, but we'd love to continue with more seasons. So to support the Untold Experience podcast, just please like and share. That's the foundation. Tell people about us, share our link if you're listening, just to support.
yeah, I think that's better than money, personally.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You can also submit your testimonies, your victories, and show topics to us via our email, and that's theuntoldexperience.com, and we'll put that down in the show notes. Also we're on all the socials. There is so many socials. Why are there so many social media outlets?
I feel like we need to hire somebody just to keep up with the socials, honey.
Somebody's
Because
interested in making
Jesus.
$5. It's my
$5, everything $5.
everything. Like, got $5.
Just so you know, you ain't even gotta ask what your pay rate gonna be. It's $5.
$5 on me. So if anybody is interested
Oh my
in helping
goodness.
us manage these socials,
Yes, please.
please, at least shout us out and hit us up, like and subscribe.
That's all you gotta
and
do.
Follow, all of that jazz.
Yeah.
So, lastly, we do have a Patreon account. It's the Untold Experience, but like as Craig said, we are more interested in just your presence.
Oh yeah.
So without further ado, sit back, grab your wine, your tea, your water. If you have boba, go and grab you some of that. Whatever sustenance you choose, and let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
Cheating
honey.
on the square.
Cheating
What rabbit hole are we venturing in today?
Well, I think you just said it, honey. Cheating on the square. I think that's, that's always, since the beginning of time, obviously, has been an issue that's plagued humanity.
Yeah.
But being that we're a couple ourselves, and
Mm-hmm.
we're subject to those, to those things, or those pitfalls that other people are exposed to as well.
Yeah.
But as you know, Tasha, we both love rabbit holes.
Yep. Love it.
I mean, it could get lost for days.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take the time, as you mentioned, with the 10 episodes, and everything that we've been doing and working on. I just wanted to say I really have enjoyed this and journey with you
Aw.
thus far. It's been a lot of
Same.
fun. I've learned a lot, not only about myself but about you.
Aw.
So I
Same.
think that's great. And our last episode, Zombie Apocalypse Now, was a lot of fun to record.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe we even have to maybe someday follow up with a part two, maybe, just because there was so much there to
Yeah.
unpack that I feel it was, it may be worth another visit. I mean, I had so much material that I wanted to add that I had to, condense and reduce down just to
Same.
to make sure we could, fit it in and be respectful of everyone's time and
Yeah.
not oversaturate them with information, because we all know that that gets a little dry, a little boring.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. So just today, I want we as we mentioned, cheating on the square. Um, things we wanted to talk about, some stuff that it may be a little bit different than our approaches before.
Mm-hmm.
I just recently watched Chris Rock's Selective Outrage stand-up comedy special on Netflix.
Yes, that was amazing.
And yeah, I didn't even know it was out until you said something about
Yeah.
it, and so I had been waiting on it. So I was pretty excited when you said that it was it finally it came out.
Yeah.
But since even in its short period of time that it's been out, it seems to have caused a lot of outrage.
Yes. Shut the back door because there are people
Shut the
intruding.
back door. I mean, just because I mean it was like, first of all, I love Chris Rock, right?
Yes,
And
me
I
too.
I think his comedy is it's obviously changed over the years, and
Mm-hmm.
from Bigger and Blacker, and some of his earlier stuff, which was a little bit more raw. Just like any comedian when they first start out, their
Mm-hmm.
earlier material is usually what we find the funniest and
Right.
is the most near and dear. But I thought that Chris did a good job of, obviously he's a mature comedian now. He has grown kids.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in a different mindset. But I thought that he did well with remaining fearless, because I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a certain
And faithful.
and faithful to his audience, right? Because
Yeah.
that's you can't, you have to understand that as a comedian, as with any artist, you can't restrict them
Mm-hmm.
by any means. That's like
Mm-hmm.
death to an artist.
Right.
So I was happy that, first of all, that Chris was stuck to his gun, regardless of whether you agreed or disagreed with what he said.
Right.
I think the fact that he stuck with what he wanted to say and said it with confidence, right,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't hold back. I think that was pretty huge.
Yeah.
But back to the point, I think a lot of people were upset, seemingly mostly women. No offense,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not here to bash women or to say I disagree with
I know you're not.
women's take, because I think that there are some valid points or truths
Mm-hmm.
or feelings towards what he had to say. You know, so I don't want to sound biased or one
Mm-hmm.
sided. Like I said, I have 3 daughters, so let me tell you guys, I there's nothing more that I want than for them to live free,
Mm-hmm.
have choices and the
Yes.
opportunity to go as far as their willingness to work hard will take them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just like, as a black man, I wouldn't want someone to limit my my ceiling because
Mm-hmm.
I'm black.
Mm-hmm.
So the same has to be said for a woman, right?
Absolutely.
We can't limit a girl because she's a girl, right? If she
Right.
has the energy and she has the want and the drive, the know-how, and the and the wherewithal to do it, by all means, she should
Yeah.
have every opportunity that any man would, and
Without restriction.
without restriction, and I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah.
But I must say I did agree with a lot of what Chris had to say in the special. I do think we as a culture, a country, and seemingly the world have some issues with selective outrage. I
Yeah.
know I do,
Yeah.
right?
Me
In
too.
fact, I struggle with it almost every day, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah.
And to Chris's point, he questioned why Will Smith, knowing the physical odds in his favor, right? He knew he was bigger than
Chris
Chris Rock.
Rock.
He knew
Yeah.
that he could, physically impose
Overpower him.
himself.
Yeah.
You know, why he chose to take out his frustration on him, Chris, rather than directing that same energy toward the source, Augustine, or
Yeah.
his wife, you know, as the source of the problem, rather than direct his energy at Chris.
Right.
So, even going so far as joking about how much of a sucker Will look like being interviewed by his cheating wife, talking about that
Red table.
red table interview where
Yeah.
Will decided to go on Jada Pinkett's his wife's show and be interviewed. I don't know if the whole thing was about the entanglement or
It was a response to what August Alsina put out first. So August Alsina put out some stuff first on the socials or whatever. So that red table talk was in response to that. But still, I don't think I would have agreed. Like, I don't want to talk about that on air.
not on air,
Like, let him say whatever he wants to say.
right?
But
It's
I don't
just,
want you to interview me about that.
I mean, how are you supposed to
I'm just
respond?
immature. They are more mature.
With
than
anybody
me.
asking you, let alone the person that
Yeah.
that just was. First, I mean, Will, I have to say that took a lot to do that,
I'm
because
not
there's no
doing it, baby.
you a different kind of man than me, Will, because there's no way I would have done that.
But then he exploded, right? So
He did,
went
right.
through that,
Yeah.
and then he saw, whatever happened at the Oscars. I don't even know. I can't, put it into words whether, Jada was upset, whether it was Chris Rock, and, or whether, because he didn't put it on himself. Like, I'm sure he was reading from a teleprompter, you know. So, anyways, I'm not sure, like, what that was all about, but, like,
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. It wouldn't be, it's not in me.
it wouldn't be in me either, honey. So we're definitely on par with that. So, and you kind of already segued into it, honey. I just wanted to know what your take on the whole situation, as a woman, even as a black woman specifically, about Chris's comments. How did they affect you? How did it,
Well, I heard and read a lot of derogatory statements about Chris Rock's show. There was a few positive things, but it was mostly derogatory, that I heard. And I myself have 2 daughters and 2 sons, and of course I want them to have total control of their bodies and identities, kind of, which is what the message that I heard, him kind of possess is, or try to deliver at the beginning of his show, about wanting his kids to have, control
right?
of them and their identity and their future. He basically stated that we all should be at choice. And I really don't see anything wrong with that.
Not at all.
No. And people being selective. And when I say people, again, I mean mostly women. They say things like, oh my gosh, he's disrespecting black women, or he's only fond of light-skinned and white women, or he's doing a lot of whining, or he wasn't funny at all. Like, I actually saw one comment that said, look, I'm 40 minutes in, and I haven't laughed once. I would have turned it off if I didn't laugh in the first 5 minutes. That's just me. But
To me, I feel like those people didn't like Chris anyway, right?
Right.
It's just like you're coming to it because maybe they probably heard the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like they heard that he said some things that were offensive, and they're just watching it to hear what the offensive part is.
Right.
They're not even listening for
Selective
the content. That's the
outrage.
selective outrage. That's an
Yeah.
example of selective outrage.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So
And furthermore, people are honing in on what he said about Meghan Markle and Jada. And although I agree that our black women need protection,
absolutely.
I definitely agree that there's like this stigma behind dark skinned black women, that they're, aggressive, or that they have man like qualities. But, you're not looking at the life that they are being presented with. How do you expect a black woman to be soft when her life is hard? But her counterparts, her competition, their life is kind of easy
right.
compared to hers. But
right.
people want that same softness. It doesn't exist for
right.
black women, and I guess that's what make us distasteful. But
yeah.
I don't know. Although I agree, black women need protection. I also feel like both women, Meghan Markle and Jada, have a level of privilege that dark skinned women or women that don't have enough, their type of money experience.
Right.
Non-celebrity women have no idea the type of privilege that Meghan Markle and Jada have. So
sure.
Anyway,
yeah.
They literally have paid protection. We're trying to get it for free. Like they actually are paying for their protections, and their husbands don't play about them. So I guess that's the difference. Their husbands does not play about them, and that's evident. But I really didn't hear any hateful propaganda about black women as a whole from Chris's segment.
Yeah.
Selective outrage. I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear any either, honey.
No. And as an activist, my spidey senses, my spidey senses tend to hone in on hateful comments towards any group of people. It doesn't matter if it's black women, anybody that's marginalized or discriminated against. I am the person that would like to advocate.
Yeah,
for
you are good. You're like a professional, honey.
Yeah,
at that. Yeah, you're really good at that.
Yeah, I didn't hear any of that type of propaganda. But I really didn't. And I was listening for it because of what I saw. And that's the thing.
I was too, actually.
I was actually listening for the hateful thing and the whining thing, but I laughed. I was laughing most of the time. And first of all, how does one get mad at a host in the first place of the Oscars? Like, how do you go up and slap the person that's reading from a teleprompter? Why don't you go up and slap the teleprompter?
The writer who actually wrote it.
That's what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
But selective outrage.
Yes.
Again, he was the closest person to him. And
the easiest.
And the easiest person, like you said. And he had to do something. But anyway, my take is I heard him give great props to his black daughters, and even Beyonce, who, get this, just happens to be a black woman. Yeah. Now, many may say that he preferred lighter skinned women, like I said before. Well, Jada is also light skinned, and apparently he doesn't like her very much. So that theory is completely out of the window. Like, I mean, if he preferred light-skinned women, don't you think he would have stood up and said, well, no, I prefer it? No, he gave her the business equally.
He did. I think he even called her a bitch. I mean, not that I advocated.
He did.
But,
oh my gosh, he did. But not that we advocated, but it's just the point of the selective outrage and what they're trying to place on his shoulders about how he's feeling about his black community.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, y'all. I know that you guys noticed this break in the segment, but I left out a point that I really think drives home the fact that Chris was being pretty inclusive in his segment and in his show. To prove that point, he wore the unpronounceable glyph, the symbol of love, which is the merging of both Mars and Venus's symbol, representing the male and female energy. So
not only was he paying homage to Prince, but he was also shedding light on his love for both the male and female energy.
Now, again, people forget that Jada is the one who started with him first,
Mm.
saying he needs to stay away from hosting the Oscars just because Will didn't win that movie he made with
Wow.
Concussion. I didn't even see the movie. I mean, I don't know what it's about. I
I
don't
think it's
know.
that football movie. Yeah. Because
Oh,
at first I was like, concussion. What the hell was it? I don't remember this movie, but I think it was.
so how
Uh,
is he supposed to be nominated when nobody know what the movie is about?
I have no idea, honey.
I don't know. And what
Yeah.
was highlighted for me is when he talked about Jada interviewing Will, like you said, Daddy, about the entanglement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. Again, people are selective about who, what, and when they feel the need to be outraged.
Yeah.
And that whole situation with Jada and the entanglement and August Alsina, that brings us to our topic today:
Mm-hmm.
cheating on the square.
Booyah.
Again, cheating on the square. So, I mean, I just want you guys to think about a few questions. These are some of the questions that have come up, and we did pick one to actually
It's
tackle
about to
today.
get hot, y'all.
It's about to get hot. Anyways, what behaviors are considered cheating? Think about it. I can't
Mm.
answer that for you.
No, you can't.
No, you got to think about that between you and your own situation.
Yeah.
Are behaviors like having work spouses acceptable? I can't answer that for you, but I know for me, in my house, that is not going on.
Mm-mm.
Do you get upset when your partner has celebrity crushes?
That's a good question.
You know,
That's a
is
good
that
question.
something people, should actually take? It seems kind of mundane and elementary, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people go through this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, honey. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what about flirting to earn an extra buck?
Mm.
You're a server, or, you're in a field where customer service and you're actually able to earn extra money and tips. Is it okay for you to flirt just to earn an extra buck? Or does your relationship boundaries prevent you from doing so?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
up to you.
Yeah. That
It's
would have
what
to
you.
be. I think that would be something that would have to be talked about. And agreed upon with your partner.
Yeah.
Because that's a tricky thing.
Yeah.
Especially if you're good at making tips, right? So it's like,
But then is that come to a point where money becomes more important than the
no, not
relationships
at
in
all.
that moment?
Well, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all, honey.
It seems like, again, and we'll get into it. We'll dive into like because emotions are in this as well. It's not just a physical thing. It's also an emotional thing happening. So, I mean, again, it's up to you in your house.
Mm-hmm.
But these are just questions that have come up and that we want you to actually think about. And we actually want you to talk about these things, with your partner,
Yeah.
so that you guys can have an understanding and come and find some form of harmony.
Which is the most important thing, right?
Yeah,
It's not
what
to
works for
fight. It's
you.
not to argue.
Yeah.
It's not to further divide.
Yeah,
It's to find a solution.
for sure. For sure. And then when does a conversation with the opposite sex become disrespectful to the relationship? Because you got to talk. I mean, bruh, there's a lot of people in this world. At some point you're going to have to talk to the opposite sex.
Right.
So when does a conversation with the opposite sex, especially if both parties are attractive, is one person is attractive or one is attracted to the other, what level of conversation do you choose to engage in?
Mm-hmm.
Today we'll dive into how we should have a conversation with our partners about interactions or even attractions to the opposite sex that makes us feel unsafe and uncomfortable.
Yeah, honey.
Yeah.
Well, that's all good stuff. And I got to be honest, there was a couple questions that you asked more, I guess, what you would call rhetorical questions. I wanted to answer, but I know, for the sake of, you allowing you to get through what you need to get through and not throwing you off, I had to refrain from responding, just because it's interesting stuff, right? And it goes back to even conversations that maybe we had in school. It's like, I remember debates. One of the earliest debates was, is it appropriate for girls to be able to wear what they want anywhere? And it was like that type of conversation. So
Yeah.
this kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah.
But okay, so let's switch this shit up for a second. All right. Today we're actually proud to share with you a question, the one and only question, but a question that we received from one of our listeners. Shout out to your boy, reaching out to us. So, like I said, it's we don't have very many, people reaching out to us. So I'll pretty much read whatever the hell you sent to me. I mean, within reason, y'all. I mean, damn. So don't be sending me no crazy stuff, because I ain't gonna read it. I got kids too.
Yeah.
But we will keep it simple. I'll read off the question, and I'll try my best to provide what limited insight I have and answer the question to the best of my ability. And if you guys don't like the answer, but you know what? I really don't give a shit. So let's get started, shall we? Question number 1. It's from Charles out of St. Paul, Minnesota. Asks, it kind of relates to one of the things that you wrote down, honey. When does being friendly at work with the opposite sex cross the line if you're in a monogamous relationship? Okay, that's back to one of them hot. Okay, Charles, you asked the right question there, buddy.
Yes.
Honey, you want to take that one first?
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you, Charles. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you, Charles.
Querido, I can't believe somebody actually asked
right?
something. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to stay focused.
Stay focused.
All right, so I'll take a stab at answering Charles' question, and I'll read it again. When does being friendly at work with the opposite sex cross the line if you're in a monogamous relationship? So, Charles, for me, that is kind of like cheating on the square, Charles.
Yeah.
That's actually, your question is what actually framed our show topic for tonight. So I just want you to know that this question framed it, because that's cheating on the square, kind of like kidding on the square. But okay, what Charles is asking is a cheating question. Okay, so first let's look at the word cheating. For me, cheating is a violation of a partnerships, a couple, emotional or sexual exclusivity. If you're choosing to be exclusive with someone, you're not just choosing to be exclusive with that person's body. You're also choosing to be exclusive with that person's mind. You're also choosing to be exclusive with that person's emotions.
Yeah, honey.
And that commonly results in cheating that, especially the emotional side, commonly results in feelings of anger, sexual jealousy, and rivalry. It causes your partner to compare themselves to others. Like, what is it about that person that's getting so much attention, and the attention is now not on me? Whether that is right or wrong, I don't know. That's just what the definition says, but I can definitely relate to some of those things. So, Charles, if you're having conversations with other women that you would not have in front of your partner,
that's huge, honey.
I would say it's kind of cheating on the square, Charles. I mean, if you can't say the same things that you're saying in front of your partner to this person at work, then you should not be saying it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not cheating, but it's definitely cheating adjacent.
It's on the way. It's
cheating adjacent, for sure.
It's opening the door.
Absolutely. And I would even go as far as to say if you know that your partner will be uncomfortable
Mm.
with how friendly you're being with somebody else of the opposite sex, then I think that you're crossing the line. So if you're not comfortable, Charles, with how sensitive I would say your partner is when it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to you um being friendly, then that's something that you've got to measure on your own. Is this the level that you want to deal with or not?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is, if we could pause on this one right here, because I think this is a huge one, and I think this usually, obviously plagues men more so than women.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a situation where you have one of the people that are that are super outgoing, right, and someone who isn't outgoing can pose a problem, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if someone is outgoing, they may be unconscious of to a certain extent
Mm-hmm.
of a simple conversation, flirting, or moving into a danger zone, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would say, and I'm not an outgoing person, but I have an outgoing personality,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I would say, Charles, in a situation, right? Because I know that's an argument for a lot of men. Like, what I just was, I was just being, I'm a nice guy, right? I'm a friendly guy. So if you know you're a friendly person, and you don't have bad intentions, but you want to make your spouse feel safe, what I would suggest is limit the amount of time that you spend speaking to people, right? So if you're a friendly person, I'm not saying don't be friendly, right? Be rude, like cut your conversation off, turn around.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we're
Yeah.
not saying that.
Yeah.
But if you know your personality and you know in the past has gotten you in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to limit your exposure, right? You know when you start talking, you know when you start letting your personality go, that attracts people.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't feign ignorance, right? When someone says they like you,
Mm-hmm.
right, or they're attracted to you now, and you say you didn't do anything. Well, Charles, you probably did,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you already know that your personality attracts people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's kind of like cheating on a square too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's like it's like gaslighting. It's like you know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
so you can't pretend like you don't.
And see, and that's the question, though, that you got to ask. And I'm glad that you brought that up. You know your personality. You know that you're probably a rambunctious person or a person that is, easily, attractable. Then you've really got to decide, is your relationship important to you
Mm-hmm.
in those moments?
Mm-hmm.
So Charles, that's one of the things that we like to, I don't know, just get you to first of all assess is how important is your monogamous relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and how important is your partner's feelings,
Yeah, hey, that's yeah.
to how you're presenting yourself to the opposite sex,
Mm-hmm.
because these days there are women that'll say, well, I don't care that you got a girlfriend. There are whole work
Facts.
wives and work husbands knowing that you have another situation at home, but they're okay with
Mm.
carrying those labels.
Right. I know you don't like that
There's
label.
okay, yeah, no, baby. No way. No, but but that's what I'm saying. Like, first of all, Charles, I feel that when a person is too friendly with the opposite sex, that person is giving power and energy reserved for your partner.
Mm.
They're getting that in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's like, how mature are you to not be able to reserve, that energy for your spouse, that you have to release that in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That comes back to the definition that I wrote, that it's up at the beginning, as far as like emotional exclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
You're not being emotionally exclusive
Mm-hmm.
if you're giving that to someone else.
Right.
You know. So, and it's not about, and then you're like, how do I gauge? Well, if you know that your partner would be super pissed about this conversation, then you probably
Mm-hmm.
should not have it. You know, in your case, Charles, being too friendly or operating outside of what your partner is comfortable with is like choosing to please or get the attention of said coworker instead of honoring the boundaries within your
Mm.
relationship. So, to sum up my point of view, because I could go a whole soapbox, Charles. I hope you got time. That was a great question. But, you know, to sum up everything that I want to say, I would suggest that you have a conversation with your partner,
Yeah.
Charles, because what might work for one may not work for other, and you know, you can't assume your boundaries. You know, it's important for you to have those conversations. Find out what your partner's triggers are. You know, discuss the non-negotiables for your relationship. Talk
Yeah.
about those things so that you guys can make sure that you're on the same page. And then base your outlook on your friendliness upon the parameters outlined by you
Mm-hmm.
both.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if you can take into consideration your partner's feelings, your non-negotiables, the things that you're talking about, then you will be able to gauge how friendly to be with this coworker.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, querido?
Well, it's kind of hard to, I guess, go after. I mean, there's nothing really more that needs to be said. Right. I think that. I mean, no. I mean, seriously though, I think that we all know that this issue is more of a struggle for men, right? I think it's it's something that definitely plagues us, especially those of us that work in female dominated industries like myself. Work in HR, and I've been doing so for almost the last 20 years, right? So as most people can imagine, it's I would say 80 to 85% women. It probably is different now, since COVID and since the recession. I think people have kind of changed perspective or changed careers, and now work in the medical field. But let's dissect this for a second, because I believe there are multiple levels to the question. On the surface, like I said, I 1000% agree with everything you mentioned and said. But I believe there's more to consider as a woman versus a man that may contribute to to your motivation to keeping a healthy distance. From those trap falls. And hear me out, right? Like again, this is kind of where I guess my male biasness comes into play. So I do realize that is an aspect of my response. So I definitely want to make that clear that I know what I'm saying isn't bond. I'm subject to I'm open to having a changed opinion, but just coming from a male, I know that there's things like personal safety, right? That women warranted, have a healthy fear of men, right? This allows you to draw clear and definitive lines. I think more so than men, right? Because we don't have the same danger aspect when it comes to women, right? I don't think danger when I'm talking to them, even though she may have just as much of an intention to harm or to bring someone to harm me, or whatever the case may be. This, but like I said, this is by no means condoning bad behavior. I'm not saying it's okay. Cheating is cheating and flirting is flirting, no matter what. I think most men with good intentions are the primary targets, right? Just like I was saying before, the more you show respect and keep a healthy distance, it only draws more attention to you, right? I've been in those situations where, okay, I'm going to try to do this. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to be about my business. I'm just going to write my book. I'm just going to take my little notes and do what I got to do. And what happened is people would come to where I was. I would leave the lunchroom. I would go to a corner away from everything, and people would seek me out. And and say, and now here I am, trying to get away from it, and it's following me, right? So what do you do in those kind of situations? And I think this is where men, like I said, you have to be really, really careful. And like Natasha said, you have to keep in mind, how your partner would feel in these situations. I think even more so than how you feel, right? Because if it was just up to you, right, you are in the situation, you can regulate it, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's just, you got to be mindful. Is the only thing I can say. I'm not into telling people what to do. You certainly make your own decisions.
Of course.
And I work from home now, too. So I've actually kind of lucked out. So I'm no longer exposed to those potential pitfalls anymore. But I've certainly, like I said, I've been in situations where there seems to be no winning options. In such case, I honestly would look at obtaining another job. If you find yourself pinned against the wall, right? If it's just like a problem, then get another job, right? It's not worth your relationship. I mean, again, that's a personal decision, right? I mean, because if you are a lawyer or a doctor, right, you're not just going to throw your career away for anyone. But I would have to imagine most people consider their relationship probably the most significant outside of their children thing that they have in their lives. So when you, like I was just saying, when you showcase that you have any kind of standards for yourself, it may cause you to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah,
right?
Women are attracted to men
They
that
are
different.
Yep. And rather than tormenting yourself, more importantly, your partner, Charles, my man, I'd say do your best to avoid them Jezebels, bruh. Keep the conversation to a minimum. And this is another key factor, guys. Avoid that lunchroom chatter. I'm telling you, and trust me, right? Because there's been situations where I'm sitting in the lunchroom by myself, got 10 minutes left of my lunch, right? And so and such comes into the break room and says, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Oh, just writing in a book." "Oh, I didn't know you were writing in a book." Bam, right? There you go, right? You have to be mindful of that. So I had to learn, that's a form of cheating on the square, right? Me elaborating on my book, talking about how, all these great ideas, right? Making myself seem interesting, right? I'm basically showcasing to her
All of
how
your
great that I am.
And why you're so desirable.
And why I'm so desirable. Even if I'm not saying, hey, baby, right? So those are the type of things that you have to be mindful of. It's because it's important.
I saw this meme. I don't mean to cut
No,
you
go
off.
please, honey.
But, speaking of that and speaking of being mindful of not seemingly desirable, I saw this reel where there was like an attractive guy. He was supposed to be shopping in a store. And the clerk comes up to him and was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so great looking. And oh, you're in here shopping for your girl. And why you're in the girls department?" And she was clearly like just flirting with him, even though she knows that he's in the women's section,
right,
obviously shopping for a woman.
Right.
So what he said, and it was just so funny, he said, "Yeah, I'm getting her these underwear because she just got in prison for killing the last girl that was for killing the last girl that flirted with me." Yeah, I've been here getting her some panties because she just got out of prison for killing the last girl that flirted with me. I thought that was so hilarious.
That is like...
even though he knew that he was a catch, you know what I mean? He saw that opportunity. He saw that Jezebel, as you said, coming up, trying to destroy what he is. Instead of him being flattered, "Yeah, I'm over here buying this for my girl." He told her that his girl will kill them both. I thought that was amazing.
God bless that brother. That's... And if we can all respond like that, brother, I think we would all come out on the right end,
That
So
is hilarious. But
and
I'm sorry.
no, that's I think that's a great point, honey. That it ties right into what I was saying.
Yes, it does.
Because at the end of the day, it's like your partner is everything. I mean, outside of your kids, once they, if, depending on where you're at in life, if you have kids or if your kids are old or in our case, our youngest kids are
In high school.
in high school, right? They're 15, or getting ready to be 16. So, your partner is pretty important. I would suggest, Charles, in closing, that you keep your partner at the forefront, right? Like what I mean, it's just as simple as what would she like or not like. Would she like me having this conversation? Would she like me talking this amount of time? Would she approve hell of me wearing this particular cologne when I know I'm going to be in a situation where there's going to be attractive women, right? There's little things that we do, right, invisible in the dark, and where we can kind of get away with things and
it seem honest enough,
right. But it's still cheating on the square, right? It's still that the same thing. So don't fool yourself into thinking, okay, well, even though I'm not doing this, I can do this. There's people try to negotiate cheating. You can't negotiate. There's no
nobody wins.
Nobody wins, right? And it sucks, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know if you've ever cheated on anyone.
She might win for
a few seconds, but it just doesn't feel good, right? When you wrong the people that you care about.
Yeah.
And guys, again, this is no. I'm not saying it's okay, right? But I know that for a lot of men, they can, they can be detached from the feeling part and just. I know for women it's not the same, right?
Yeah.
There's usually feelings tied to the physical part.
Right. He's like, as long as I'm not doing nothing, I'm good. And
right.
The woman is like, bruh,
no.
What about my emotional exclusivity?
Because that's where that's where most of the where the relationship is, especially when you get past a certain point, right? The first year, everything's good, y'all fucking every week, everything's great. You know what I mean? But there comes a point where it's like, okay, what now? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you got to have some shit in place in order to be able to continue and go on.
Yeah.
And sustain that.
Yeah.
So yeah, cut down on the lunchroom chatter. Like I was saying, back to that. And in closing, we're about an hour here, so we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's critical because low key, like I said, it could easily turn into a date like scenario. You sitting in the lunchroom. Think about it. You sitting in the lunchroom, eating across the table from somebody you may or may not find. Let's say you do find them attractive, right? You're sitting across the table, eating with someone you find attractive, having a private conversation, right? Someone may not be in earshot.
Yeah.
If you find them attractive and you've seen them multiple times, I'm pretty sure at some point you could make it to where it's kind of like no one can hear what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's in the lunchroom or that travels to, okay, well, let's walk around the building. I was about to go on a walk. Oh, me too. Right. So, and you can kind of fool yourself and thinking because you're not at work, it's not a date. Guess what, bruh? That's a date.
Yeah.
That's a date. Right. You ask somebody to go do something and they agree. Right.
And that's funny because the work wives, they get more of your attention than your actual wife.
That's where you gotta be
actually sharing finances with. She washing your dirty drawers. She got clean pillowcases. I mean,
guys,
she actually working 2 jobs too, just like you.
Let me tell you something.
The woman at work or the woman that you're trying to be friendly with get more adoration and get more attention than your partner.
Well, I mean, that goes both ways too, though, right? I mean, that's...
Well, yeah. But, I mean, not for me, but I'm just saying I could see how some women would actually have those type of scenarios.
Yeah.
And it's not okay, I don't think.
If I could... advise you guys, and this is the last thing. I promise, this is the last thing.
We always
If we can
say
get
that.
away from that work wife, work husband thing, like don't even go there. Like I know
Yeah.
people like saying it's like a ha ha cute thing. You know, I don't know if that started, from older people, who are, comfortable in their marriages and they know that, their husbands, worked with Susie for years. Maybe she was a secretary or maybe his boss, and they just have physically been working together. It's almost like a family, right? And it's kind of like maybe started as a ha ha thing. Oh, that's like your work wife, because shit, y'all been working together for 20, 30 years. But that it doesn't. It's not the same now. I think the work wife thing is like. I don't think it was what it originally, and maybe it's always been, kind of a thing. But
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think it definitely has a negative connotation
Yeah.
to it now. Where it may have started as something kind of innocent.
Yeah.
So Charles, I think you probably got more information that you intended, but I think it was a great question, right? Because it definitely spawned, great thought and great conversation even just between me and you, so hopefully, it does that for the rest of you.
Yeah. And y'all tell us what you think. If you have different
Please.
opinions, if you have the same opinion, hit us up.
Hit us up.
Look, we don't have time right now to give you all our socials, but we
If
all
it's
on,
major,
we on all of them.
hit me on my page.
Absolutely.
Ring it, ring it, ring it.
Get it.
Ring my
Get it.
telephone.
Get it.
E40, y'all. Shout out to your boy.
Yeah, so we're going to go, and we love y'all. Thank you
Love
for
you.
listening. Watch out for the show notes if you want to hit us up. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Hit us up.
All right.
Booyah.
Bye.